This happened about a year ago. I was broke, desperate, and barely holding things together. A local contractor offered me a job cleaning out abandoned houses. Most were just rotting shells, dead quiet and full of dust. But one of them wasn't, and I still remember the sound that came from its kitchen. The company was called Clear Space Restoration. They handled the kind of jobs no one else wanted: foreclosed homes, condemned buildings, or houses where something bad had happened. My job was basic: go in, clear out the trash, take photos, and file a quick report. The pay wasn't great, but it was quiet work, and quiet meant safe.
Excuse me, sir.
After a few weeks, I'd stopped noticing the smell of rot or the squeak of mice in the walls. Every house felt the same: boarded windows, soggy carpets, mold creeping up the wallpaper like veins. But that morning, something small broke the routine. When I picked up the day's assignment sheet, one address stood out, not because of where it was, but because someone had tried to erase it. The line had been crossed out twice, thick enough to tear the paper. Beneath the ink, I could still make out the numbers, faint but visible. I asked the foreman if there'd been a mistake. He didn't even look up, just muttered, "If it's on the list, you clean it." There was a note beside the address, 3 words that didn't appear on any other entry: "Verify possible occupancy." That phrasing stuck in my head. It meant someone wasn't sure whether the place was empty or didn't want to be sure. I folded the sheet and slipped it into my glove box before heading out. The drive would take about 40 minutes, long enough for the city to fade away into the kind of silence only abandoned places have. I remember glancing at that crossed-out address one more time at a stoplight. The ink mark looked darker than before, like it was still wet. When I pulled up, the street was silent. Not quiet, silent. No cars, no mailboxes, not even tire marks on the dirt road. Just rows of empty houses, their windows fogged and staring back like blank eyes. The one I was assigned to had its front door half open, swaying slightly with the wind. It squeaked every few seconds,
Hello?
not loud, but steady.
Clear Space
Like
Restoration.
the house was breathing in its sleep. I called out the same way I always did. "Hello, Clear Space Restoration. Anyone here?" My voice disappeared into the hallway. No echo, no answer. Just swallowed by the air, I stepped inside. The moment my boots hit the floor, I felt the weight of the place. It's hard to explain. It wasn't cold, but the air felt dense, like I had walked underwater. Dust hung in the light, streaming through broken blinds, unmoving. Every step stirred it just enough to remind me I was the only thing alive here. Or at least, that's what I told myself. I went room to room, clipboard in one hand, flashlight in the other. The usual: piles of trash, old furniture, rot. Each door creaked the same, loud, drawn out, like the sound was being dragged through the walls. But something didn't match. Every surface was coated in dust, thick, gray, undisturbed. Except one room, the kitchen. The doorway was clean, like someone had brushed it recently. The counters gleamed under a weak beam of daylight. The sink had water spots, not dry stains, but still wet, glistening. That stopped me cold. The air in the kitchen was different too. A faint smell of detergent mixed with something warm, faintly sweet. I remember thinking maybe someone had just come by, maybe a squatter cleaning up before leaving. It was the only thing that made sense. But then I saw it, on the table, a plate, a single half-eaten sandwich sitting neatly in the center. Bread still soft, crust still golden. A knife beside it smudged with peanut butter. Mold hadn't even started. I don't know why, but that's what broke the illusion. Because it didn't look like someone had just eaten. It looked like someone had paused, like they had taken a bite, stood up, and never came back. I leaned closer. The smell was fresh. My flashlight beam passed over crumbs that hadn't even dried yet. I checked the floor, dust all around, untouched except for one faint footprint beside the chair, too clean to be mine. I remember backing away slowly, every creak of the floor sounding sharper than it should. For a moment, I thought I heard something behind the wall like air shifting through pipes. But when I turned, the sound stopped. The house was still, completely still, and that sandwich sat there untouched, waiting for someone who was never coming back. I called the site manager to confirm the address. He didn't answer right away. There was this pause, not a normal one, not the kind you fill with typing or shuffling papers. It was dead air, like he had stopped breathing. Then his voice came back, quiet, like he stepped away from the phone. Yeah, that's the right one. Be careful. Another pause. Just be careful. That property's been reported before. Reported. Before I could ask what that meant, the line cut. Not hung up, cut. Static popped once, then nothing. I tried calling again, but my phone froze on the dial screen, battery suddenly at 1%. I hadn't even used it all morning. I looked up at the staircase. The air upstairs shimmered faintly like heat rising off asphalt. The steps creaked in a rhythm that didn't match my breathing, too slow, too measured. I told myself it was just the wood settling, but the sound kept syncing with my heartbeat. Every few seconds, creak, pause, creak. I climbed the stairs. The smell hit me halfway up, bleach and something metallic, sharp enough to sting my throat. At the top, the hallway was narrow, wallpaper yellowed and bubbling. Every door was nailed shut, thick iron nails hammered in rough, uneven rows, except one. The last door on the left was slightly open, a sliver of gray light spilling into the hall. I hesitated, flashlight in one hand, clipboard in the other. My fingers were shaking, the paper rustling louder than my breath. When I pushed the door open, the hinges screamed. Inside, the smell was stronger, bleach, iron, and something faintly sweet underneath, like old fruit left too long in a bowl. The first thing I noticed was the floor. It was spotless, not a speck of dust. Then the walls. Hundreds of photos covered every inch, Polaroids curling at the edges, stuck on with old tape and thumbtacks. Each one showed a person standing in a different house, holding a clipboard, a trash bag, a mop, all wearing the same clear space restoration vest. The same one I was wearing, my chest tight. I stepped closer. The faces were blurry, overexposed by the flash, but some looked familiar, maybe people I'd seen in training or photos on the staff board at HQ. I reached out and pulled one photo off the wall. It was a man, maybe in his 40s, wearing the vest, standing beside a broken window. On the back, in shaky handwriting, verified, 8/19/23. I looked at another, verified, 11/02/22, and another, verified, 01/05/21. The dates went back years. My stomach dropped when I saw one pinned near the light switch, newer, sharper, less faded than the rest. The date on the back read 07/14/24. That was last month. I flipped it over. The man in the photo had the same haircut, same face shape, same jacket as me, but it wasn't possible. I'd never been here before. The air felt heavier suddenly. My flashlight flickered. The bulb buzzed, brightened for a moment, then steadied. That's when I noticed something else in the corner of the room. A sleeping bag, rolled open, slightly unzipped. Inside, a pillow, an empty water bottle, and a flashlight identical to mine. The fabric was still warm when I touched it. That's when I heard it, a faint shuffle somewhere below. One slow, dragging step. Then
No
another.
signal.
My body went rigid. I killed the
Verification
flashlight
pending.
and listened. The sound came again, closer this time. I backed toward the wall, eyes on the door frame, breathing through my teeth. The floorboards groaned one by one, tracing a path from the bottom of the stairs to the hallway. Then they stopped. Silence. I counted to 10. When I turned the flashlight back on, the beam caught the wall of photos again. But something was different. One Polaroid that had been crooked before was now straightened. I swear it hadn't been. I took a step toward it. The photo fluttered slightly, like someone had just pinned it there. My hand shook as I reached for it. The image showed the back of a man standing in this exact room, same wall, same photos, same flashlight beam crossing the frame. The only difference was the angle. It was taken from the doorway, from behind me. I spun around, nothing. Just the hallway stretching out, dim, nails glinting in weak light. My phone buzzed suddenly, screen lighting up with no signal across the top. I almost dropped it. The buzzing didn't stop. No incoming call, no message, just the sound. Then, faintly through the speaker, I heard a voice. Verification pending. Static crackled. I turned it off, shoved it into my pocket, and started backing out of the room. That's when I noticed the closet door. It was open just an inch. I hadn't touched it. A faint metallic smell leaked out, stronger than before. I thought about leaving right then, just bolting out the door, but something kept me frozen, curiosity, or maybe fear of turning my back on it. I crouched, shining my flashlight at the gap. The beam hit something pale, fabric, a folded vest, the same company logo printed on the chest. I lifted it with 2 fingers. The tag inside was faded but still legible. Eric Dalton, technician. I remembered that name. Eric was on the missing list posted near the time clock back at headquarters. They said he'd quit without notice. My hand started trembling so badly I nearly dropped the flashlight.
Still here.
I turned to leave, but the door to the hallway was closed. I hadn't heard it close. The smell of iron filled my lungs.
We're here.
The walls seemed to lean in just slightly, as if the house itself had drawn a breath. I forced the door open, stumbled into the hall. My footsteps echoed louder than before, as though something else was walking just a half inch behind me. When I reached the stairs, I glanced down. There were footprints in the dust, not mine. Each one led upward, stopping just a few steps below where I stood. I took one step back, heart hammering. The wood creaked again, then stopped. Silence pressed in from all sides. I turned back toward the room and froze. The sleeping bag was zipped now. The flashlight inside was off. I hadn't touched it. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. Everything in me screamed to run, but I couldn't, not yet. I needed proof, something real, something to tell the company. I lifted my phone, hands shaking, trying to take a photo of the wall. The screen flickered, then froze. The camera app opened by itself. It switched to front view. For a split second, I saw my own face.
You're one of us.
Sweating, terrified. And behind me, a figure standing in the doorway. I spun around, nothing there. But the smell, the sound of slow, shallow breathing, it hadn't gone away. The flashlight buzzed and flickered again. I whispered to myself, "You're fine, it's just the house." But I didn't believe it. I could feel it now. The sense that something was watching from the dark, patient, quiet, and very close.
Warm.
Laid low for a couple days. Drew claimed he had work in North Jersey. His eyes said he wanted a reason not to sleep within earshot of water. The house went back to regular noises. I pretended the lagoon did too. On Thursday at 10:11 p.m., a dock light across the canal blinked and went black. Then the next. The pattern went right toward the cul-de-sac like someone unscrewed.
You shouldn't be in my house.
I counted out of reflex. Pause, two more. The darkness arrived like a tide. Boards creaked across from me, a body's weight shifting. I backed into the kitchen and killed my lights. My reflection vanished in the slider. All that remained was the black square of outside and the way my breathing sounded wrong in small rooms. A thud kissed the siding near my knee, soft, wet, rope heavy. Another. I parted the blinds a finger's width. A rope ladder hung from the upper deck, wet rungs knocking the wood. Hadn't left in ladder out. Every useful muscle in me either locked or went on strike. A pale, dripping hand took the bottom rung. The motion light above the slider snapped on, flooded the deck in white, and for half a heartbeat I saw a gaunt hood, a metal handle in his other hand, a jaw set to do work. The light cut. My body grabbed a cast iron skillet like it was a sheet. No footsteps. Only the drip of deck water and somewhere in the house wiring. Noise that sounded like a GFCI outlet. The ladder was gone. So was my reflection. Then the power went with a neat click fridge AC clock. The silence landed like something heavy in a small box. From the far end of the dock came a dim blue pulse moving toward me. It bobbed once, twice more. A key float. The same shade I'd seen under the helm, except this one glowed like it had swallowed a bioluminescent trail or a buried LED coin. Remembered every time high school me had laughed at haunted dock posts.
The details
I didn't laugh now.
of a
Four splashes
forgotten
rose from the dark,
past.
spaced the way you space bad ideas, evenly as if the water itself had a procedure. The house shivered as something big tested the pilings.
I was sent
ran
here
upstairs,
for cleanup.
slammed the bedroom slider, dropped the security
was
pin on
I.
the top track, and waited for glass that didn't break. When my heart finally found a slower gear, blue light had drifted past the dock and out into the cul-de-sac. The power ticked back on by itself, like a breaker switching from a remote hand. I slept in my shoes that night.
Clean up.
It needs us. Every house
clean up
needs
what's
someone
left.
to keep it clean. I backed toward the stairs, fumbling for my phone. The screen wouldn't turn on. The reflection staring back at me in the black glass wore a vest darker than mine, the same faded one he had on. I looked up. He was closer now. His eyes weren't brown anymore. They shimmered pale gray like film negatives catching light. "You don't have to fight it," he murmured. "You'll see. The house takes care of its own." I glanced toward the sleeping bags. They were moving more now. The zippers twitched, slowly opening from the inside. Something pale slid out. A hand stiff, shaking, the same kind of gray dust coating the fingers. I ran. The house groaned behind me.
You're one of
timbers
us
flexing
now.
like lungs. Every step I took, the floor moved beneath me, soft, pliant, like walking on skin. At the front door, I risked one glance back. The man in the vest stood at the top of the stairs, still smiling, watching me. Behind him, the Polaroid wall flared white, as if hundreds of flashes went off at once. For a heartbeat, I saw new images forming there, rows of cleaners, all in uniform, all frozen mid-turn. The last one was me. I don't remember running. 1 second I was in that room, and the next I was outside, gasping for air, my hands shaking as I fumbled for the truck keys. I drove without thinking, tires screaming on the wet pavement, headlights cutting through the fog like a dream I was desperate to wake from. When I finally stopped, I was miles away. I sat there until dawn, the house still burned into my mind. Later that morning, I called my manager. I told him everything, the photos, the man, the voices.
You did the
My
right thing
voice
leaving.
broke halfway through, but he didn't interrupt. When I finished, there was a long silence. Then he said quietly, "You did the right thing leaving. We've lost a few guys at that address before." He hung up before I could ask what he meant. The next day, when I checked the assignment log, that property was gone, deleted. The listing number, the coordinates, even the audit record, wiped clean. I drove by the area a week later. The street didn't exist anymore. Where the road should have been was just overgrown brush and dirt, like no one had ever built there. I tried calling the company again. The line disconnected. Their website went blank the next morning. For a while, I convinced myself it was over, that maybe I'd hallucinated the whole thing. But last week, I got a voicemail.
You left a mess.
No caller ID.
Come finish
No
your job.
timestamp. At first, it was static, faint, wet, like someone breathing into a cloth. Then a man's voice, rough and distant, whispering under the noise. "You left a mess." The sound of something dragging across wood. "Come finish your job." And beneath that, barely audible, the quiet snap of a Polaroid camera shutter.